Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV. Today we have a very important interview. The people that are doing some very important work, Kareem Shehadeh-Rifai and Shannon Young from the MSE Study Gaza. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
So many organizations, many activists have been saying for a very long time that the death count in Gaza is severely undercounted. You have taken on a project to try to at least see if the numbers that are being reported are truly reflective of what has happened, the devastation there in Gaza. Please tell us a little bit about what you're trying to do.
So I'll give you a little bit of a background story to it. Whoever knows people from Gaza should actually just reach out to them and talk to them on themselves, because that's where this whole MSE study came from. The background of it is that I know people from Gaza, and I asked them, like, how many family members have you lost? Well, since I know them, since the war started, several people, I've experienced along with them how they would lose one brother, one sister, etc., until they have no more family members left, for example. So coming with a IT background, legal background, and statistical background, at one point in time, I started asking myself that the official death count is 60,000. It was 50, 40, etc. But that's somewhere around 2% of the Gazan population if you're calculating with 2.375 million. Could be 3 million if you 3% if you're calculating with 2.2 million. But 2 to 3% death toll would mean that the people, would mean that you would only lose, let's say, 1/50th of your own personal family or network. So what's the likelihood that just by coincidence, all the Gazans that I know, they lost like 48, 89, that's 2024 status, right? I don't even ask them anymore. I'm afraid to ask them. Like what's 25 status? So how is it possible that they lost 48, they lost 89, reaching like none of their family members left, like they don't have no brothers, no sisters left, parents are dead. The only reason why surviving is because he's not living in Gaza. So that's not 2 to 3%. Makes no sense. So that's where it came from. I said, so the question was like, how can you just talk with Gazans and find out what's the percentage of their family members that have been killed and what's the percentage of their network that has been killed. And so when you know that percentage, if you know, let's say, I know 100 people, 20 people were killed, and we asked 50 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, and it turns out that with everyone, it's like there's nobody, I don't know anybody from Gaza who hasn't lost any family members. I challenge anybody to go out and ask, right? Find me a Gazan who hasn't lost any family members. I don't know anybody, yeah? So from that perspective, if you get 500, 5,000, and it turns out that we get like somewhere, you're going to have outliers in statistics. It goes like, that's an exception to the rule. But, we will find an average, which will range somewhere, wherever it is. And that's the background or the backbone of the study, is that we ask Gazans about how many family members they have lost. And Shannon is luckily on the team because she's really great to have on the team, and she knows what she's doing.
So in a way, without getting too technical with statistics, but this methodology that you're undertaking, you're hoping to get into a ballpark or just see if the numbers are truly reflective, the ones being reported are truly reflective of what people are reporting on the ground and the actual death count.
Yeah, so I would say, as we've all heard in reporting, some people feel like the estimates are hugely overestimated, some think hugely underestimated. And, based on Kareem's experience and the experience of a lot of other people, we wanted to kind of test is it plausible that the estimates are correct? And so by going through this study, which is going to be using social networks and social connections and family connections to get as much data as we can, we really want to know, do we get in the ballpark of what's being reported, or can we with reasonable certainty say that the numbers are clearly off? So really that's what we're trying to show. And so I'm really thankful to have, been on the same call with Kareem where he presented about this work. And then I offered to jump in and help because I think it's a really important question to answer.
Now, one more point is the MSE study is like you do have a lot of crisis areas around the world. So how do you assess how many people have been killed in those crisis areas? So it's an acceptable format that is used by international organizations in order to reach an assessment, a statistical assessment.
So the method that you're using should at least give you a ballpark that is statistically within a certain, plus or minus, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the Lancet has come out with a study a little while ago saying that the death count is just under 180,000 people. A Harvard Link study, I know it wasn't peer reviewed, but they were saying that 400,000 people are disappeared or under the rubble. How does your study relate to those, and are you going to be able to use any of that?
You want me to say something, Shannon? Or
Sure.
Would you like? Okay, so the Lancet bases its study on the official Hamas numbers, and then calculates that on average, you can calculate that you will have an increase of around 400% because somebody who's injured is going to die, somebody who's sick is going to die as a consequence. So that's a different approach. And the Harvard study, as far as I know, is based upon the IDF map information. I'm not sure, but that's my understanding. And then it was calculated on that basis. This study is based upon a statistical method of surveys to assess the percentage of deaths in Gaza.
Yeah, and I would say also just that, because a lot of the studies that are going on, a lot of the formal studies that are being funded are using data from a source that is at least to some an unreliable source of information. And so we're sort of just pulling totally away from all of that and trying to collect our own information to try to bring to bear maybe a little bit more of a neutral point of view of what's going on in Gaza. And just to say not only mortality, but long-term injury as well, because I think it's really important, obviously, to know the mortality figures, but many more people are alive, but their quality of life or their situation is completely changed forever because of a long-term injury. And so we felt it was really important to include long-term injuries in our survey and not just look at the death toll.
That was going to be my next question, which is, are you just looking at deaths, or are you looking also at injured and maybe anything else like displacement of people, or is it just the injury and the deaths?
We're looking, I can start first and then Kareem, maybe you'll want to add, is we're looking at mortality on long-term injury. And then we do have some specific questions around deaths and long-term injuries due to specifically malnutrition or starvation. So that's kind of the other area that we're trying to look at. I mean, honestly, and Kareem knows that I have this tendency to do this, is, you always want to collect as much information as you can so you can look at it in a million different ways. But we also have to be really mindful that people have gone through a lot of trauma. Like, it's not necessarily ethical to ask question after question after question to people around this topic. So we're really trying to pare it down to just the minimum necessary to get, a sense of the data.
So from my experience is that Gazans are so traumatized and so exhausted, just moving and having bombs exploding next to them and starving. And so it's something which is really, really, excuse me, can you go outside? So it's something that is very, very exhausting for them. And for them to spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes to participate in a study is already very, very hard to do. And then you also have the basic survival, like the Gazans that I know have lost 30 to 40 kilograms. So I guess in pounds, that's like, I don't know, 100 pounds, or what would be 30, 40 kilograms, 80 pounds, something like that. And, they weren't overweight. They're just normal weight, and they're exhausted, and they can't retain water, which is a very, very extended phase in starvation. So we're just trying to find ways to help them not die from starvation. But in that condition, it's very hard to also participate in a survey. So there's a large range of challenges to face in the current circumstances.
Well, how has just have a little bit of more time left, but I wanted to ask you a couple of questions quickly. How has been the response from, people that are looking at this issue, like the media or the community, and then also from Gazans themselves?
So again, like I said, the challenge is, all right, so we did a test run with a long survey. So the point with the long survey was that really wanted to get, like Shannon, because it's very valuable to get a long survey response in order to have a lot of analytics out of it. But the challenge that we faced was that it was too long for Gazans to answer, and therefore we've been now working on shortening it and sending it out again. From the data that I received from the long one, I was shocked, but it's not a reliable number to consider like an official something that's statistically reliable.
Mm-hmm.
So Shannon, just a very quick question. Have you been looking at the numbers already? Do you already have some idea of if it's going to be a lot bigger or anything you could share? I know you can't obviously tell us any results, but just what is your impression so far?
I mean, our initial impression is that it could be pretty different than the reported numbers. I will say, though, just in full transparency, that until we get to the point where we have, 400 survey responses, things in that ballpark, it won't be reliable enough to be able to share any data, because I just think, we don't want to be accidentally misleading people if we're not giving them statistically valid data. So, but hopefully this, doing this interview, et cetera, will also help to get people to participate in the survey. I think the more results that we get, the more accurate it will be. And so we'll be really trying to use sort of, networks of people and communities to try to get as much data as we can.
So what numbers are you using right now? I don't know if you discuss with any people, but are you using the Gaza Health Ministry numbers as you prepare this, or is there another figure that you're using, waiting for this your report or your study to come out?
We don't use numbers. We don't need to use health ministry numbers. We don't need to use anybody's numbers. We just need Gazans to participate in the survey and to tell us how many family members have been passed away, have died, how many family members are injured. We don't need anything else.
I was more asking about, in discussions with people, if you're talking about maybe you write an article or you're discussing it in that way. Are you using any particular number until you finish your report, or are you just steering clear now from just saying any number?
Yeah, personally, I'm not using any number specifically. I really just want to see what comes out of the study. And again, just reiterating that we're really just trying to answer the question, are the numbers we're hearing, do they seem plausible based on the data we're getting or not? And based on that, then we can look into it further.
Okay, last question. How can people help you out?
It would be great if You could put the link to the study underneath in your info or comment to this interview, so that Gazans, specifically only Gazans, or people with friends in Gaza, can provide their authentic numbers.
Okay. Shannon, Kareem, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll make sure to include the links in our description so people can help out and share it with, any relatives, any friends that they have in Gaza. Thanks again for your time. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This is Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV with very interesting study that is taking place so we can see if the numbers that are being reported truly reflect the devastation that has taken place with the genocide in Gaza. Please stay tuned for more interviews. Let us know in the comments below questions you have, comments, and assalamu alaikum till we see each other again.